What do I know about hope? Well, I'll tell you, the Lord has shown me a lot of hope in difficult circumstances. When Xander was born, he had a lot of issues. And just being in the hospital on 2 separate occasions with an infant and not knowing the outcome of that situation was really hard as a parent. This is my firstborn, and first time in the hospital, we were in there for a month before they were able to determine his breathing issues. He was hooked up to all the machines, and as a first-time mom, that's scary. And I seen several babies in the NICU with him, and just kind of feeling like we're all in this hopeless situation, But I just had to trust. And I know that God is faithful. And so I had to trust that this was gonna turn out okay. So the first time, there was a lot of complications, and he was still struggling with feeding as well. So he had an NG tube in his nose, and he had a breathing treatment over his nose, and he had an IV in his head. And I won't forget just seeing my son that vulnerable. It was really hard. But God had plans for my son, and he's such a blessing. Today I see how he's thriving, and I just couldn't imagine looking back then, knowing what I know today and how far he's come. It's only because God has gifted him with that. I struggled. I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of concerns. And eventually I was able to just have the faith that I needed and pull the strength that I needed to gather to find that peace and that hope, knowing that Xander would come out of this. And I just remember looking at these 4 walls, just like, is this gonna be our life? And it was hard. This is second time. The first time was a full month. We were in the hospital, and it just seemed like forever, and I didn't know how long this time was gonna go on. And so this time around, it was about almost another good month. But I just remember just being on the phone with my grandma and her telling me, like, Mija, you need to dedicate him to God. You need to give him to God. And I didn't really understand what she meant. I was still new in my walk with God. Like, I wasn't really fully walking with God, I wouldn't say, but that was a boost that would just expand all that I can be with him today. I just broke down one day, and I told God, I said, if you just get us out of here, like, he's yours. I will teach him about you. I will let him know who you are. Like, I will walk with you. I'll turn away. And that was like my cry for help. He loves to chow down on some chicken nuggets now, and he loves mac and cheese. He drinks out of a straw, out of a sippy cup, and that's not something that I could see him doing at the time. And so just to see how much he's thriving now, they had diagnosed Xander around 9 months with Smith-Magenis syndrome. It's developmental delay, cognitive and learning behavioral issues. And that was just like another thing to just pile on top of, all of the stuff. And I had a strength that I didn't know I could have for him, and this hope that I didn't know could come out of such darkness. But I see my son today running around getting into cabinets at home and making a mess out of the seasonings on the floor. And I'm just like, wow, like, look at you go. I compared my son a lot. I did. I'm ashamed to say I would constantly compare Xander to his cousin that was born 2 weeks after him. When I would see him hit his milestones, I was just questioning, like, why isn't my son there yet? And it took Xander almost a full 2 years to walk. Now he's running around the playground. Take him to the park and he's getting on the stairs and climbing on the benches and sliding down the slides. And he's so beautiful. And I'm just so thankful that God has shown me that even in those difficult circumstances, that he is the hope that I can have for Xander in my parenting, when I'm doing it alone, when I'm needing to be more nurturing and understanding, when I need to just take a deep breath and realize that this is something difficult to do. And it's okay that it's hard, because he's there and I have him to lean on. Before I knew God, I was, out in the world doing the things that we do in the world, not acknowledging him and all his grace that he's given us. And I'm just in awe of his miracles and the things that he can do for my son, from going to not knowing to having this hope that my son is thriving now. Just thanking God for his current state and how far he's come. It's a blessing. I used to compare my son whenever he was, younger, because he wasn't hitting his milestones the way other kids were. And even now he has a little bit of delayed speech. But I still have a hope, because I didn't think he would walk, and now he's running, he's jumping, and he's trying to sing the songs in church, and he's just doing all the things that I couldn't have ever imagined at that time. And so I'm just very blessed to see what God can do when you put your trust in him, whenever you realize where your strength comes from. Joshua 1:9 has been the verse to remind me that God pulled me out of Corpus, because I was unsure. His dad is gonna drive back to Corpus. We're arguing at 5 a.m. And once his dad drives back to Corpus, I'm in this hotel room with my son alone, and we packed for the weekend. So it was minimal medical supplies that I had for him, like 1 can of milk, and that was it. A weekend's worth of clothes, 2 days worth of clothes. So I had nothing. So I got on my knees right after he left, and I said, God, if this is what you want, just show me, so I know I'm doing the right thing. And my phone lights up. I was on my knees crying, and I see my phone light up, and I look, and it was Joshua 1:9. And it was, do not be discouraged, do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. But the first part of that verse, have I not commanded you? It's like God was telling me, like, I told you to do this. Like, do you not trust? And so I was like, okay, God. Before I got baptized, I was smoking, and every time I would smoke, I would ask God to forgive me, because I knew it was wrong. And I knew I started getting a conviction that I never had before. And I was apologizing every time I smoked. I told God, just help me stop, because now I'm just stuck on this drug and I can't on my own. And I get there to my mom's house, and my aunt is like, Mia, if you're really ready to change your life and turn away from all these things, and we'll baptize you right now in this bathtub. Like, it's about, your heart, and to show God you're committed. And when they baptized me there in the bathtub, I had a little bit of weed in my pocket left, and I just handed it to my aunt, and she flushed it down the toilet. And that was the start of a new chapter that God was beginning to unfold in my life. The Bible talks a lot about hope, and in His Word, we can find those promises. When doubt filled my mind, your comfort gave me renewed hope and cheer. And that's Psalm 94:19. And then hope is available to those who wait on the Lord. That's Psalm 62:5. Jesus' resurrection gives us hope. That's 1 Corinthians 6:14. And then John 16:33 is, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome this world.